Warning: this video will contain harsh and incredibly provocative language at some points. Viewer discretion is advised. Here are two questions for you. Why is it so easy to be toxic in video games, and how does it spread so quickly? How do games get so out of hand in voice chat and in text? This is for all multiplayer games that have a method to let players talk to one another via voice and or chat. I'm not including games that rely on predetermined chat boxes like Dark Souls message system, for example, because those aren't the real player experience. I think we can only imagine what wonders Dark Souls players would say had they the chance. In addition, we need to clarify what the definition of toxic is for this video. And for the purposes of this video, toxicity is one player or a group of players' actions that negatively affect another player's experience in or out of game through continued harassment, bullying, threats, or disabling parts of a game's core function, such as chat or voice chat, movement to areas that players need, or preventing a game's objective by exploiting game mechanics a la trolling, air quotes. With that clarification out of the way, how does it happen? There are certainly more than a few things to point out, but these are going to be the things that I primarily focus on. Number one, gaming is losing its couch co-op feel. That's not to say that it does not exist, and that there aren't games being developed with this idea in mind. Take a look at Crawl, Needhog, and a multitude of local split-screen options that many games have. They still exist, but they certainly aren't as prevalent. In the early days of gaming, having the ability to play with a friend was a must-have. Bringing friends over for Mario on the NES or Smash Bros on the N64, back then that was the greatness of video games. Now, for any game that isn't specifically marketed as a single-player campaign, it's a necessity and expected. It's not even a selling point. But now we also have the internet, so rather than sitting together in a room with friends when it's far easier to just play together with one another from home, that's the normal. That means less personal interaction, less seeing a friend's face and watching their reactions, and less, well, you guessed it, couch co-op. Given the convenience of it all, it was bound to head in this direction. Through internet and online play, it's much easier to meet new people from different states, countries, and even continents. And maybe one day, even planets. I did say losing though, didn't I? And the fact of the matter is, as long as gaming stays a social activity, which it definitely will for the foreseeable future, that feeling won't completely dissipate. We're entering uncharted grounds in gaming when it comes with the massive amounts of interconnectivity that exists. We're bound to have a lot of experimentation in how things work. That in mind, games have evolved to try and keep couch co-op feel alive by integrating voice chat and lobbies, communities. It's really not enough. The couch co-op feeling could return if VR takes off enough that it becomes the standard, and imagine personally interacting with strangers in virtual rooms. A lot of bullcrap that people pull would eventually return in some shape or form, another, eventually, but I do believe that it would help. Number two, curse words are extremely effective. And we're all aware of one central gaming philosophy, and if you're not, this will be a good education point for you. Gamers will predominantly go the most direct and efficient route for achieving something. That's how we work. If a gamer wants to get a rise out of someone else, they will go the most effective route. More importantly, curse words are already an effective means of creating emotional distress because they're so ingrained in nearly every society on the planet. There are some words that we just aren't allowed to say, either because they represent outdated ideas that no longer represent our culture and they are offensive, perhaps even cruel, or because they have certain religious or moral etiquette that prevents their utterance. Regardless of their situation, they do exist. On the flip side, curse words aren't creative, and everyone knows them and they know they're not creative. It's easy to see everyone using them. No matter their combination, a cock-gobbling, ass-blasting fago nerd is about as offensive as a shit-faced, cock-fisting thunder cunt. They don't mean anything unless you let them to, and many people younger audiences mostly do. Real toxicity comes from wit, when players come up with memorable phrases that are repeated all across the internet land. They cut deep, deeper than, I don't know, fucknuts McClitty ever could. Curse words they're like the iron arrows of any RPG. They're usually the cheapest, but they're fairly reliable for a fair portion of the game until you gain more specialized gear. Some players always have iron arrows on them and they never bother buying into the big things, and maybe it's because they don't see the need to. If iron arrows get the job done, why would you go for more expensive stuff? And so within that case, why would you need to get more creative if what you're doing is working? Number 3, it's simply put as bandwagon. The point of that is, if you see a bunch of other people doing it, you have a stronger chance of being influenced, especially when you don't have the knowledge to combat it. This typically applies to younger audiences, but we've all seen that adults are just as capable of being twat waffles, cunt fucks, limp dicks, etc. Kids and people learn from that stuff. If everyone on the server is doing it and you don't want to participate, your options are pretty limited, aren't they? So either you're part of the bandwagon or you're not. And in this case with gaming, there is no win-win scenario here. Either you are not on the bandwagon and they make fun of you, probably calling you a pussy or a loser who can't take it, or you join the wagon and everyone's calling everyone a pussy and a loser who can't take it anyways. You could mute them, but I personally have been under the rule that in a multiplayer game with free chat, you should be limiting muting as much as possible. Eventually, you will meet a good player, but you'll never know, or you might miss them if everyone is muted all the time. On the flip side, you don't want everyone to be against you, normally, so chances are that if you're of low confidence and you just want to get along with everyone else, or you just want to feel like you're part of something or that you're playing the game properly, you'll join the bandwagon. And some people might feel empowered once they join. They might get a small power trip. They'll carry on this emotion to other games. They're obviously that all of these people who aren't cursing one another, that they're just weak and they're useless. They don't know how to verbally defend themselves. And then the bandwagon becomes self-perpetuating spiral of nonsense. And there's a lot of kind of games where that's happening. Some niche games can expect to escape this toxicity by going under the radar, but with how widespread and connected many gamers are, it's difficult to keep any player of ill repute out. So, what do we do? How do we fight toxicity? How do we combat those that are making our games worse or really just don't care about how other players feel? What can we do to bring back the feeling of couch co-op and not let curse words be arrows and to put an end to the bandwagon? Well, you can't. Not completely. The thing is that this is always going to happen in any competitive environment of any sport, in any medium where there are winners and losers, no matter what you do. No matter how well you conduct yourself and others, it's always going to be there in some shape or form, but we can reduce it. Groups are always popping up where they hold a stricter code of conduct and they moderate them so. Such groups typically have some bonuses to them as well, like custom servers with custom rules and items, and sometimes if you're well known enough, custom cosmetics for your character that really make you stand out and feel like you've made a difference. So if you're ever not in the mood for potentially meeting disruptive players, it's a good idea to find and occasionally return to such places. If anything, to just remind yourself that they do exist and that good players are out there. At the same time though, if you sequester all the good players into groups who aren't in the mainstream playing the main game, then the people who join a pub who are new and don't know how the game operates, they will be slaughtered mercilessly. They absolutely will fall prey to the system. It's up to good players to find newer players, or those who are struggling with something, to step up and take the chance to make their day a little better. Those small moments really do mean something special to others. Take it from me, who has done this in games a multitude of times. Even when I'm not recording and I'm sending gifts out to others, it makes people so happy, even if they just get like a Pompson, or they get the Cow Mangler, or they get the the eviction notice. Sorry, I tried to combine two. If they get the eviction notice, they don't care. They were just happy that they got a gift. We also can't be mad when we're trying to be friendly or we're attempting something stupid and a player kills you. In Team Fortress 2 or any other game, they are there to play the game, and sometimes we just want a genuine, no-fuss experience. I know that I do sometimes, and I will admit, I normally don't go after friendlies if I see that they are being friendly and that they're just tossing sandwiches out to one another, or they're just saying hello and they're having their own little corner party. I usually won't interrupt, so long as it's not affecting the game in a major way. Being friendly does come at the cost of another player's experience as well, just as much as being toxic does. So the ultimate way to combat toxicity and to reduce it to manageable levels is to have good self-conduct. It is just as plaguing to be nice as it is to be mean, at least in my experiences. And I do need to clarify something here on the end note, that cursing in and of itself is not toxic. Sometimes you just need to yell, fuck, shit, damn. Sometimes you need to call out a teammate who is being a major asshole. That just happens, and that is not being toxic. When it comes at someone else's experience, that is when toxicity occurs. You can be a good person and have a sailor's mouth, so I'm not rapping on those who are those kind of people. Hell, look at some of the most famous gaming YouTubers out there, like CNanners, Chilled Chaos, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Game Grumps, Gassy Mexican, I'm just naming some people, my personal favorites at least. They are people who do not have the cleanest vocabulary in any sense of the word, but they do some incredible things with and for their channels, and they're certainly not close to being toxic people. It comes down to the personal experience, and small changes add up, and if enough people are nice, others will follow in that example. It's happened throughout history, it's happened throughout gaming, and it can happen with us too. We just need enough people to say, no, I'm better than that. I'm going to end with a cheesy quote, but a quote that is true nonetheless. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good people do nothing, by Edmund Burke. All we have to do is just let people get away with it, and that's how we end up with these bad communities. That's how we end up with games like Counter-Strike Global Offensive being notorious. They're just bad. They're full of salt. It's hard to get into those communities because people are just so mean to one another. It's because that people let it, and we can't let that happen. Not to ourselves and not to others. We just have to step up, and we have to stand up for ourselves. And if somebody else can't do it, we have to stand up for them. In any case, again, thank you for your time, and let's see what we can do to make communities a better place. Bye-bye.